Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we have part 2 with Zed and Clark, who run Trackable Med, a company that has changed the game for advertising, especially in the medical sales space. Providers have so many services, especially private practices. They have so many services and so many different types of patients they can treat within a specialty. A lot of times, there's a specific patient type that's not coming into that practice. One, because that patient does not know that provider's out there to service them. And two, that provider is not sure how to get access to that patient. This is where Trackable Med has completely changed the game. In this episode, this part 2 episode, we're going to get more into the details around why this works, how it works, the neuroscience behind what's actually happening that allows Trackable Med to be so effective. And we're also going to see a little bit more detail around the model. So if you're a healthcare professional out there, whether you're a sales rep or a sales leader or a provider, this is definitely an episode you want to listen to. As always, thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I really do hope you enjoy part 2 of this interview.
Crazy. Why would we not tell people what the benefit would be? Because they're not wired for that. Hope is not the most motivational thing in the world. Loss aversion is. So let's talk to the person about their pain. Let's connect on an emotional level so they understand. They start nodding their head. Hey, these people get us.
Right.
And then let's speak emotionally to them so that we can motivate their behavior. A guy by the name of Jonathan Haidt came up with a pretty cool way to think about the brain, and it's referred to as the elephant and the rider. Mm-hmm. The elephant represents the limbic system, where our emotions are. The rider, the little guy on top of the elephant, represents the prefrontal cortex. Imagine talking to a little guy on top of an elephant, which way to steer the elephant, when the elephant has an opinion about which way it's going. Elephant wins. So if we create advertising, and I'll just bring this to MedTech, if you're a device rep and you're trying to inform a physician into changing their surgical behavior, you're telling the little guy on top of the elephant which way to steer that elephant. It just doesn't work. So that's how we do it from a messaging standpoint. But here's something that I learned, and I wish I had thought about it before I learned it. Private practices aren't that great at talking to patients on the phone.
Sure.
The first campaign I did, we got an insane result. So many phone calls for a very high revenue procedure. And I got a call on my cell phone. This is how old it is. I flipped my cell phone open to answer it. And the physician started screaming at me that he wasted all this money. And I didn't understand because we had transferred something like 40 patients to his practice.
Wow.
The calls were recorded. I listened to them. And that's when I met who I refer to now as Agnes, who hates her life. She was taking all the calls. She was talking patients out of the appointments. So the other way we do it is we own the entire conversion path. We create the demand. We take the phone call. We have a staff of patient advocates who talk to the patients, book the appointment for the practice. So it's not, a high five about, hey, we did some advertising. It's a high five of John Smith with United Healthcare has an appointment at 2 p.m. Here's what he's suffering with. It's been 10 years.
Wow. So everyone in that account's winning, from the front office staff that's not going to be overburdened with all this new business to the provider that, of course, desires and wants the new business.
You got it.
That's good. Excellent. So then, to everyone listening right now, give us your ideal MedTech professional that's hearing this episode and they're thinking to themselves, this makes sense.
You've got, from a company perspective, you've got 2 lenses to look through. This is what we talk to commercial teams about all the time. Are enough surgeons offering your procedure? Yes or no, right? The answer is yes. Great. That's awesome. You've got deep penetration from a provider perspective, utilization. The next question would be, if it's not, then okay, you likely are looking to grow your utilization base, and there's some offenses to run there. This next question would be, so you have enough, or you've got enough that enough for you. Are they at capacity? And if the answer is yes, hey, fantastic. Probably looking to acquire some other technologies, right? Or something else to put in your bag. If the answer is no, well, there's some offenses to run there as well. And that's an oversimplification, but it's starting at a very high level. That's where we really start when we're talking to, the commercial teams at a high level. And then what are they really looking to achieve? And it's usually a couple of different goals simultaneously. So what does that look like? What's the time frame, and on down the line? We really want to understand. We're very mission driven, whether it's a solo practitioner in a private practice, or it's a division of a Fortune 500 strategic, or you just got round C and you're commercializing for the very first time, and we are your whole marketing team, or the extension of your 1 or 2 man marketing team. So that's one. But we also work with industry. We work with a lot of reps all over the country. This is actually how I came to know the business in a more of an informal manner, where they're just looking to be more valuable for their customer base, and they're looking to grow and hit their targets that they need to hit. And those device reps, those biotech reps, they want to be more than a vendor. Usually, when they're working with us, or they're helping us, should say, leveraging us as a tool in their territory, and they're introducing us to their customers that also meet one of those two things. Usually they've got more capacity, right? That client, that customer of theirs that says, man, if I just had more of this type of patient, we'd be rolling, or, this in my practice would change, or we'd be able to work together more. Right. That's a good start for introducing us and seeing if there's a fit. And again, Zed mentioned earlier, it doesn't always mean we're necessarily creating demand. There's often times where there's enough demand there to meet the actual practice's needs or goals, just by capturing more of what's already there, or sort of looking for what they want to do more of. So
it almost sounds like you guys do business consulting for these med device and companies, and maybe even so much for the sales reps as well. Is that the case? Do you guys find yourself kind of needing to dig deep and say, look, let's find where the opportunity actually is?
Yes. Here's what I love about this stuff. Knowledge gives you places to pivot conversation. And my favorite thing in the world is we talk to a rep and they're saying, man, I have this practice, and I think if they just had more patients, they would do more of my procedure. And so we say, all right, well, let's chat with them. We get on a call. As a third party, we're able to ask questions that maybe the rep didn't think of or wasn't able to ask. And we uncover something in that call that lets the rep realize that this physician is not using the device to all the indications that the rep thought. So we definitely turn into consultants at that standpoint for this rep, because we're not going to move forward on the deal, because now the rep just figured out, holy moly, I didn't realize that the guy or gal believed what they believe. And we love those conversations. It typically doesn't turn into a new client for us, but to me, that's furthering the industry, where we're able to help that rep uncover, like, wow, they weren't going to use my treatment or therapy on a lot of these patients. And so they can go now do their work. The other case is, we have a conversation and that practice is ready. If I had more of these people, we would rock and roll. And so we connect, and they just, fast forward a year later, the rep's on the stage at the awards ceremony, because they're, top customers up to their volume by, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%.
That is awesome.
It's not all altruistic either, right? I mean, it's good. It's how we run our business. What I mean by that, Samuel, is we're typically trying to talk customers out of spending money with us at the beginning. And it's because we don't work on contract. Mm-hmm. So if that physician in this scenario that Zed outlined really isn't as far down the line as, the particular rep might think they are, or hopes that they are, we don't want to waste their hard-earned money going towards something that's actually, it's going to fail in their eyes in terms of them converting before we even start. it's not good business for us. And it hurts everybody, including the person that referred us in. So we're really trying to find the reasons why it wouldn't make sense for them to invest resources in that direction. And that it pulls out, it sounds counterintuitive most likely, but that pulls out a lot of honest feedback.
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys probably turn away some business then when you really dive deep and explore what the opportunity is. If you don't see that it fits, then it doesn't fit.
Yeah, we refer to it as pulling our own kid out of, or pulling a kid out of traffic, right? Sometimes that means you're pulling them out because you need to help them make a decision that is good for their business. Other times it means pushing them away out of traffic because they really shouldn't do what they think they want to do based on either capacity that they don't really have, that they wish they had, and they're not willing to, double or triple book or whatever. They're not willing to change their practice on the provider side, or they really don't want that many of those patients. And, they thought they did, but they don't.
Got it.
So, the kid out of traffic piece is, it doesn't matter if it's your kid, you're still going to grab the child out of traffic because that's the right thing to do. It turns out that it helps our business at the same time.
Got it. So I want to ask you guys a question now, and it's a little bit off of what you guys do specifically, and it's more about where you think the direction is going. So, we talked about advertising. We talked about this disconnect with the awards. We talked about the disconnect with what's being taught in university programs. But, talk to us a little bit about if this problem exists and it kind of hasn't been resolved, it's allowed professionals like you to really get in and really make a difference. Where do you think the future is headed for advertising within the medtech space? And when I say medtech, I'm talking about anything medical sales, for the providers and patients. Like, where do you think it's all going?
That's a great question. The first thing I'll say is it's absolutely changing, and the change is accelerating since COVID. Welcome to the party, just like everything else, right?
Right.
Here's what I mean by that. We were working, and a growing part of our business, along with private practice, was our medtech clients and working directly with them and their commercial teams. But that's accelerated on both sides. The providers have realized that they want to have control over patient flow, and an accelerating problem for them is also their referral networks being gobbled up and disappearing, right? They're having to choose sides based on networks expanding their footprint. And on the medtech side, like we talked about earlier, they've done a really good job on educating a lot of other parties along the line, but they've never traditionally done a good job of owning patient education. And at the end of the day, that's the collateral that's valuable in healthcare. And so if you can let more people know about what the value that whatever your technology brings to the table does, and that somebody could benefit from it. Obviously, we talked about the benefits and the loss, right? But so you do it in a way it's loss aversion. But if they know that there's a better option out there and they don't have to live this way, they're likely to take action and find out if they're a candidate. That's a heck of a lot better than just hoping that more patients come to providers that believe what you believe. The second piece of that is, and this is the piece that's really starting to, the knowledge of it and the acceptance of this knowledge is starting to pick up in the industry. And I'm super excited about it because it's healthy for patients. And that is that most companies are looking at patient populations through CPT codes and codes that are quantifiable. And those are simply patients that are already in the system, that have already been diagnosed or gone through certain treatment algorithms of some kind. There's a massive patient population in most instances that hasn't even gotten in the game yet because of preconceived notions of what they don't want. CPAP's a great example, right? Yeah. Vast majority of patients that have CPAP don't even go, that need CPAP don't even go get evaluated for it because they know they need it and they don't want it.
Sure.
So the patient population is much larger than what actually shows in any piece of data that you can buy. Well, that's a massive patient population to go speak to and create behavior change. Zed, would you add anything in terms of what's changing?
So I think you also see, as technology moves along and there's ability to target people with advertising digitally, I think you're going to see some frustration actually grow with advertising and marketing because you can get so fancy on your targeting and you focus on it and then your results actually get worse. And so I think there's going to be a little bit of a dip from people getting excited about investing in certain types of advertising. And then we'll see it come back. And Clark really nailed that the audience is the key. And a lot of the technology that's coming out, you just see it across the board. It's about minimally invasive. It's about treating someone earlier. It's about maybe ways to keep people off medications. Well, you have to get patients earlier in their disease state for that to work. And we have to shake people awake from what they're suffering with. And that's got to be done through advertising and marketing. I think you'll see more co-marketing between medtech companies and private practice, where they're owning the patient education together. We're seeing that really start to grow, and the outcomes are incredible. I think you'll see more medtech companies take ownership of educating the patients, so the patients are advocating for themselves from a therapy standpoint and reaching out to providers specifically requesting treatments.
Well, Zed, Clark, this has been highly informative. One thing that I also want to know from you guys, specifically to your company, when it comes to, really providing this service for the providers and for the med reps, is it just as needed basis? Are there certain times that need to be committed to? How does that work?
That's a good question. Everybody is going to be very specific. I actually view us similar to a really good doctor. A really good doctor is going to have a very strong patient visit that gives them the information to know what treatment really should be, what are the underlying causes, and then how to move through treatment. That's how we treat business. So it's hard to say that no matter what, this is the answer. There's so many variables to that. We really got to uncover what is the underlying cause or whatever's the barrier to what they're achieving. But I want to try to simplify it to the audience, because if I was listening right now, I might be a little bit confused of what I should do, frankly. And I know this because our business is confusing, frankly. So if I'm a med tech rep listening, the thing that I would potentially think about is, do I have a practice who loves the outcomes that my technology brings? And would they do more if they saw more of the right patient? If the answer to those two questions are yes, that device rep should contact us and discuss what it looks like to introduce us to their practice. Okay. If I was a distributor and I wanted to pull in relationships with my clients, then I would look for the same thing. Who do you have that has strong outcomes? And I would connect with Trackable Med and understand how you can be a little bit more sticky in this competitive environment. If I was leadership in med tech, then what I would be thinking about is, how can I make my commercial team more effective faster? How can I take a rep that's new to a region, and instead of having to wait 18 months, 24 months, how can I make that person green, or black, I should say, coming out of the red, as fast as possible, early as 3-6 months. If I'm a med tech leader and I'm concerned about how many people use the device from a utilization standpoint, how can I drive demand by the use of patients asking for my therapy? And then if I'm private practice, if I'm listening and I'm a physician owner of an independent practice, and there's any sense of I'm busy, but I wish I was busy with somebody different, then that would be another person to potentially reach out.
Got it. And last question. I know that, the medical sales world is vast. Therapies are vast. So many different specialties. How are you guys able to address anyone that shows up, regardless of what their specialty is?
Well, we get that a lot. Have you worked in this specialty or that? And here's the beautiful part about it. Because of the neuroscience and the behavior change that is the underpinning of everything we do, it doesn't really matter the specialty, as long as we're dealing with humans. And so that pretty much covers the basis. And that's because those mechanisms in our old software, our brain, stay the same.
So as long as you have the disease state, you guys have a team that can do the rest. And because the mechanics are the same as far as how to change behavior, it always seems to work.
Yeah, we've worked in patient populations as broad as sinusitis, right? And back pain, all the way to single-sided lower limb amputees, right?
Got it.
So it's really about understanding the emotional connections and the neuroscience behind it.
Well, this was an amazing time with you guys today. This is an exciting company you guys are working in and making things happen. This is an exciting space, and we can't wait to see more that comes from both of you in the near future.
Thanks, Samuel. Appreciate it. Love your podcast, man.
Yeah, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Definitely. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, if they listen to this episode and they're saying, oh my goodness, I need to call these guys now, where should they go?
Hit us on LinkedIn. We're both pretty active there. You have our contact information is there. Samuel, I'll happily provide you with my cell phone number, my email address. I would also like to say the things that you're doing with your organization for the young reps that are out there and looking to up their game or get in the industry, they need to check this out because that kind of content wasn't there when I was trying to break in, and they should definitely be taking advantage of it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, you guys. Well, we'll be hearing from you soon.
Thanks, Samuel.
Thanks, bud.
And that was part 2 with Zed and Clark and their company Trackable Med. It's always great to have guests that create innovations that allow healthcare to run better. And it's just cool to see that when there's a gap in how healthcare functions, someone comes up with something that kind of connects, creates that bridge, and allows things to work better. If you're curious and you want to learn more about how Trackable Med does what they do, or you see a direct need and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I actually need this service, then make sure you look in the show notes and you'll see the link to Trackable Med. You'll also see the link to Zed and Clark's LinkedIn. Reach out to them, get connected, and get the assistance that you're looking for. So maybe you're a sales professional in medical device sales or in pharmaceutical sales or in biotech sales. And you're listening to this episode and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I like listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, I hope. And I'm always learning new things. And there are some things that I want to do in my own career. Maybe you want to get to President's Club this year. Maybe you want to just simply grow your numbers. Or maybe you have a new position or a new opportunity, or you're new to sales. You're new to medical device sales or pharmaceutical sales, and you're not sure how to even put it all together to make sense of what you should be doing day in and day out. And you're looking for help, or you're wanting help. If this is you, then you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, select Improve Sales Performance, and allow someone to speak with you about how Evolve Your Success and what is done there can change the game for you this year and get you to where you want to be. And if you're someone that's looking to get into the industry, maybe you've been listening to these episodes and you've been putting out applications, you've been chatting with some people online, you've been doing things here and there, but you're not really getting where you want to be. Maybe you're not getting the interviews you want, or you're not able to get the offer after you have the interviews you want, or you keep being told something like, you don't have the sales experience, or give it a couple more years, or you don't have any medical experience, or you don't have that right background. If that's you, and this is an industry you want to get into, then again, visit evolveyoursuccess.com and select Attain a Medical Sales Role. Follow the prompts, fill out the short application, and have a conversation with someone that can get you where you want to be. As always, we like having guests that bring innovations and are doing things within the medical sales industry to enlighten those of you that are our listeners and to showcase what can be done in this space. So please continue listening, and I look forward to you listening again on another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive-level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.